In the 1980s, Cincinnati Railroad Club member Gibson R. Youngblood wrote a series of articles for the club's monthly newsletter that described the origins and subsequent construction of Cincinnati Union Terminal. This video, and those that follow, utilizes his articles on the subject along with photographs from the Cincinnati Railroad Club archives. We are deeply grateful for the time and effort of Mr. Youngblood, who unfortunately is now deceased, in researching and documenting the subject. From the day its doors first opened, the Cincinnati Union Terminal has been referred to as a temple of transportation. Certainly, Cincinnati Union Terminal ranks with Grand Central Station, Pennsylvania Station, St. Louis Union Station, and others as one of the finest monuments to the Iron Horse. Whether it should be regarded as a temple or simply as Union Terminal, it is possessed of a certain haunting characteristic of which cannot be denied. It is this quality which has made it one of the most vivid memories of our city to the passing traveler. For this reason, it is subject of study by students of art and architecture throughout the world. It is truly unforgettable to anyone who has passed through its doors. Cincinnati Union Terminal represented a new architectural approach to the accommodation of large numbers of people. Even today, it stands as a novel physical plant and engineering feat worthy of study. It constitutes one of the world's best and purest expressions of what has come to be known as Art Deco. The purpose of this series is to explore the mysterious quality of Cincinnati Union Terminal and all of the elements of which it is composed and why it should be preserved. As is true of many things, the Cincinnati Union Terminal was based upon a need. This need conjured a dream in the minds of Cincinnati citizens, and then, as so often happens, a handful of people appeared with the knowledge and ability to convert that dream into a reality. To understand this need, it is necessary to start at the beginning. From the time of its founding, the city of Cincinnati, located on the Ohio River, was destined to be one of the two major gateways between the North and the South, the other being Louisville, Kentucky. As a result, it was inevitable that the city should become a center of trade, transportation, and manufacturing. In the beginning, the Ohio River was the major transportation route. Most of the supplies for the city came from Philadelphia, and overland travel to that city by wagon took 30 days. By 1794, keelboats traveled the river on a regular schedule. In the early 1800s, the steamboat made its appearance and for many years remained the primary transportation means. In the year 1835, over 2,200 steamboats would tie up at the Cincinnati Public Landing. Cincinnati was not only a transportation center, but also an important steamboat building community. In 1872, some 54 boats of significant size were launched from city shores. Riverboats still constitute an important factor in the city's economy, but primarily as barge traffic for commodity cargoes such as coal. Largely because of the river and steamboats, Cincinnati grew, with the result that in the early 1800s, manufacturers were already looking for other sources of transportation by which their products could be cheaply and safely shipped. As a consequence, the early 1830s saw the era of toll roads and turnpikes. Many of Cincinnati's most prominent roadways today have their foundations laid upon these early toll roads. The Ohio River and toll roads, however, still proved inadequate. As a result, Cincinnati turned to canals. Construction of the Miami and Erie Canal was begun in 1825 in Middletown, Ohio, and the first two canal boats, the Clinton and Washington, left Cincinnati for Middletown on November 21, 1827. The horse or mule and the canal boat had now become another integral part of the city's transportation system. The Miami and Erie Canal ultimately reached Toledo and Lake Erie in 1840. The Miami and Erie flourished for many years as a transportation source, and its great success led to the building of the Whitewater Canal from Cincinnati to West Harrison, Indiana. That canal opened in 1843 but was not successful and was abandoned in 1860. The Miami and Erie Canal reached the end of its operating days about 1895. It is interesting to note that horses and mules were used throughout substantially the entire canal era, electric mules and gasoline boats being only used at the very end. A portion of the Whitewater Canal became the right-of-way for the entrance to Central Union Depot at 3rd Street and Central Avenue. A portion of the Miami and Erie Canal became the right-of-way of Cincinnati's ill-fated subway. However, the river, toll roads, and canals were still not wholly adequate to meet the needs of a growing city and manufacturing center. Enter the Iron Horse. In 1843, the Little Miami Railroad began operation. Eventually, the Little Miami would become part of the Pennsylvania Railroad. In 1851, the Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Railroad began operation. The CH&D would become part of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad in 1917. In 1854, the tracks of what would eventually become the Louisville and Nashville Railroad reached Covington, Kentucky. The Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago, and St. Louis Railroad, also known as the Big Four route, began service in the 1850s. The Big Four would become part of the New York Central system. In the late 1850s, trains began to run on the tracks of the Ohio and Mississippi Railroad Company and the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad Company, with both ultimately acquired by the Baltimore and Ohio. The U.S. Civil War temporarily halted the building of additional railroads in the area, but in the 1870s, the construction of the Cincinnati Southern Railway began. In the meantime, a number of short-line routes were built from the city to what was then suburban villages. Competition between these villages was keen, and as a result, these short-line routes were generally rapidly built, ill-planned, and laid in various gauges. By 1910, passenger service on these short-line routes was abandoned, and the demise of the freight business followed shortly thereafter, primarily brought about by the coming of the motor truck after World War I. By the early part of the 1900s, Cincinnati was served by 7 railroads: the Baltimore and Ohio, the Chesapeake and Ohio, the New York Central, the Norfolk and Western, the Pennsylvania, the Louisville and Nashville, and the Southern Railway. The city had 5 passenger stations: the Central Union Depot at 3rd and Central, which was built in 1884, the Pennsylvania Station at Pearl and Butler, built in 1880, the CH&D Depot at 5th and Bay Miller, built in 1859, the 4th Street Station, and the Old Court Street Station. The Central Union Depot was used by the Baltimore and Ohio, the New York Central, the Chesapeake and Ohio, the Southern, and some Louisville and Nashville trains. The Toledo Division trains of the Baltimore and Ohio used the Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Depot on Bay Miller Street, later moving to Central Union Depot. The Pennsylvania Station was used by the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Norfolk and Western, and some Louisville and Nashville trains. The Penzies commuter trains used the Court Street Station, as did some of the Norfolk and Western trains. Of all the 7 railroads, only the Baltimore and Ohio operated passenger trains through the city. Cincinnati constituted a terminal point for the others. To see how chaotic the situation was, let us look at the year 1928. The number of passengers entering and leaving the city on a daily basis averaged about 17,000 to 20,000. This required 108 inbound and 108 outbound trains, utilizing some 1,100 passenger cars. To go through the city, most of these passengers not only had to change trains, but stations as well. Finally, to compound the difficulties, the 2 primary stations, Central Union Depot, built partially on the bed of the old Whitewater Canal, and the Pennsylvania Railroad Station, were subject to flooding. In short, Cincinnati represented a traveler's nightmare. It was known to have the most inconvenient, awkward, and cumbersome passenger facility of any major city in the United States. The need was there, and the need was great. Join us next time as we continue this series. Please like and share our videos with your friends. That helps the channel out. Hit the bell icon below and receive notifications of our next video. We'd like to thank the Cincinnati Railroad Club and its members for the support in making these videos and this channel possible. Until we meet next time on the High Iron, stay safe out there.